Hey guys, welcome to ConvoCourses podcast, a mini podcast. I've been doing these every day. We'll see how long I can keep doing these. But if you guys are interested in knowing more about security compliance, specifically for the federal government, I've been a contractor. I've worked in the private sector as a cybersecurity professional. I'm a former Air Force member and now a civilian just doing this. So if you have any questions whatsoever, I can help you out. And if I don't know the answer, actually somebody in my community will know the answer. If you're interested in joining into this community, I'm on LinkedIn, got a huge following there. I'm on YouTube, of course, Facebook. I'm on TikTok. You can follow anywhere you could just type in at ConvoCourses, and I'm there. And that's where our community is. And slowly but surely, we're building up a community on Facebook groups and on Discord and everything. So there's a huge community here that can help you out, and maybe you can actually help the community as well. All right. So that's convocourses.net. Link in description. Have a ton of different downloadables, free stuff, discounts, all that kind of thing. And right now, I have for a limited time only, like a book for like 99 cents. I might even make it free. I'm looking for reviews on there over on Amazon. Link in description. Okay, let's get into this. I have a question from somebody saying, another one from Phil. I know they answered this one the other day. Another question from him. He's saying, okay, so this time there's a couple questions. There's a few questions. Okay, I'll answer all these questions. He's saying, good tips. So thank you so much for that. He said, so why is there a disappointment in NASA? And shaking my head, explain, please. And then another thing he asked is, are you mostly an MS, a Microsoft guy, a Linux type guy? Are you a system admin? Are you a network admin? What's going on? So I'm going to talk about all these things. First of all, let me just talk to you about my experience with the federal government. I've actually worked for many different branches and agencies within the government, currently working in one now. And they have different levels and different things that they're really good at and different things that they're not so good at. And it also depends on the contract. So for me, DOD is probably where I have most of my experience over the years. I've worked for them, many different departments, many different branches of the military I've worked for within the Department of Defense. So that's where most of my experience is. They're very structured. They're very structured and have a very specific way that they do everything. They have documentation on everything. They take everything very, very seriously, and it makes sense. I mean, they're the military, so they're getting attacked from time to time from actual other governments. From time, it's serious over there, so they've got to take everything seriously. That being said, sometimes there's leaks and hacks and all that kind of stuff that happens with every organization, and they're not excluded from that. But they just have I guess maybe I'm just more used to the way they do things. It's very structured. There's some things I don't like about it. That structure actually is very rigid. And because it's so structured, sometimes you can't, it's just, to change that process is very slow. That process is it's like a gigantic ship that it takes a while to change it in any direction. Whereas some of the other smaller federal departments, they're quicker to change and they're more flexible. And I found that has a plus and minus. So sometimes when they're more flexible, they're not very strict with their rules. And so they kind of tend to be like loosey goosey with the rules and stuff. My experience with NASA, it wasn't NASA per se. It was the contract I was on was out of line with what NASA wanted. So there was like a lot of tension in that relationship. NASA's different. Like they have many different sites and everything. The way they do things is not, some of the sites sometimes differs from the other sites, which is annoying. That's definitely annoying. And they're having a hard time trying to consolidate everything. And it's probably different now. I mean, I've been out of there for years, but there's this backlash on trying to consolidate and everything, make everything more consistent, more like the Department of Defense or some other department. So that's sort of some of my gripes about it. But other than that, it was great to be a part of something like that. I've always looked up to that organization because obviously going into space, and they're like the cutting edge of that, like probably more so than most governments around the world. They're on the cutting edge of something amazing as far as space exploration. And then you got the James Webber telescope. I was there when when we were protecting it and all that kind of stuff. That was really exciting. And you get wind of all these other projects that they're doing on the inside, and that way I really miss it because I'm really a space and science type nerd. So seeing some of the sites that I seen and some of the stuff that I saw there at the department was at the agency was amazing to see that. But on the back end, it's kind of all over the place. With they have good security, but it's just all over the place with sometimes the structure and how things go between. And that was probably just that contract that I was on. It was not my best experience, to be honest with you. It was very disappointing. And it sucks to have to say that, but and that's not NASA's fault. I think it was just the organization I was with and NASA were at odds with that particular, and they ended up losing the contract. So that's why I left, because the contract was lost from that organization. So it was contentious from the beginning to the end, and I came on the tail end of their long bad relationship between the organization I was with and NASA. So that's kind of what happened. That's why I kind of said that on the video. The video is talking about is I kind of shook my head and said, don't ever meet your heroes. And I was talking about NASA. It was pretty disappointing. Like, it was a real bad relationship, and it sucks to have to say that. But I don't want to go too far into it. But if I told you the whole story, you'd be mind blown. Okay. And then the other question he had was, are you mostly a MS Windows person or a Linux, Unix type guy, system admin, network? I've actually done a little bit of all this stuff. I would say most of my technical skills were within the network area. Mostly networking was my deepest technical skills. That and Windows, Windows endpoint devices, and then networking stuff. I went pretty deep in that. And the other part that I went deep in was cybersecurity analyst work. I went really, really deep in that one for some time. So those are two of my, like, whenever it comes up, I can quickly pick it up because I did it so for a while, and I went pretty deep in it. So those are two of my biggest ones, but I have done some Linux stuff, Red Hat Linux in particular, and then some Unix. I think IRIX is one of the versions that's long gone now. But so those are the ones I was mostly familiar with, but mostly networking and Microsoft type stuff. So, man, it's been a great career. I've been blessed to be able to do many different things. And, it's been really, really good for my cybersecurity experience, because anytime somebody talks about something, normally I have some knowledge of it or some kind of experience that I've done in the past about that one thing. And if I don't, I can figure it out real quick. And if you don't get the chance, like, Linux is something most of us are familiar with Windows, or Mac, but I would say the back end of Mac, which is a Linux system, is what you need to play with, because if you know Linux, it's going to help you out with everything else. It helped me out. Knowing Linux helped me out with knowing how to do routers and switches, which mostly are based off of Linux technology. The back end of it is based off of Linux. Like, if you do the actual command lines, some of the commands you can do on Linux, you can also do on a Cisco device, for example. And I think Juniper has the same thing, and some other firewalls. They took the kernel of Linux and then they built their whole operating system around that. So some of the key things that you would do in Linux, you also can do on like a Palo Alto or a Juniper or a Cisco network devices. And even some back end systems some appliances also built their stuff off of Linux. So if you know Linux, especially command line, you can pretty much you can work your way around almost any other system. And then Linux is also based off of Unix. So if you know Unix, you know Linux, and if you know Linux, you know all these other platforms. So I've been really lucky in that aspect to kind of go down the path of Linux and in some of the networking stuff. So that's my background. Okay, guys, I'll see you guys on the next one. And hopefully tomorrow I can do one, but we'll see.